Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing good. Hope you guys are staying safe. Today we're going to be working on, as the title says, authentication and authorization with or for Next.js 14. So in this video we're going to be building our authorization and authentication from scratch basically. So we're going to have a login page, a register page, and a logout, and we're going to be using we're going to be using auth context to basically carry those carry the user information around our application. Now this video is going off of the entertainment app that we built in the last series, so we're just adding more to it. So if you haven't seen that one, I advise you go watch and build that project out. It's pretty nice if you ask me, pretty cool project. So if you just have your own project and you just want to see how to implement the authorization, authentication, all that within it, this also works perfectly. So you don't have to worry about it only having to do with the last project we did. It's just easier to follow along if you've done it, if you built the last project with me. But you can implement this with any application you build that needs authentication or authorization. So like I said, we're going to be using JWT, we're going to be using cookies, we're going to be using MongoDB to store our data. So with all that said, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you do like this video. Give a thumbs up, by the way, in the comment section, just so I know like you are actually, you know, just get some interactivity within our comment section. But with all that said, let's get right into the video. Alright guys, so here we are with our project. As you can see, this is currently on localhost 10,005. I'm not displaying the one that's already been deployed because we're going to redeploy this, seeing how we're adding authentication and authorization to it. So what we want to do now is we want to, before we head to our code, we want to go ahead and create our MongoDB cluster. So right now I'm already in MongoDB. All I have to do now is hit create. So you guys should already know how to basically start up a MongoDB project. So when you come over here to deploy your cluster, we're going to be using the free model. So here we're using free, the MO free, and it's gonna, you just come down here and go to create deployment. And once you go to create deployment, it's gonna give you all this information. Now I'm gonna go ahead and change my password after this, but it's pretty much this. Once you're done with once you choose a connection method and you're done, your database is pretty much connected. So I'm gonna go ahead and create my credentials, my new credentials, and see you guys in the code once I'm done with that. All right, so once we're done connecting, we should be, and you click on database here, you should be brought to this page. Now if you hit browse collections, it shouldn't say anything. Yeah, it should just the databases should be 0, collections should be 0, and that's perfectly fine. That's because we haven't really done anything with our project. So let's head on over to entertainment app. Let's head on to our code now, and let's make this smaller. First, let's make this smaller. Cool. Now let's bring this over here. Awesome. And let's close out of that. Cool. So now we're within our code base and we're able to start working. All right. So the first thing we want to do, so let's make this actually full screen, because what we want to do right now is we want to set up our database. So within our source folder, we're going to come down to, where's our source folder? So here's our source folder. We're going to go into our source folder, and within our source folder, we're going to create a new folder called utils. And within utils, we're going to create a new file, and this file is going to be called mongodb.js. So it's going to be mongodb.js. Cool. And in this file, here's where we're going to connect our actual project, this project, to our MongoDB. So so now we're gonna have something show up in collections when we once we connect. Well, not necessarily immediately, but when we create our schema and everything. So let's create that connection. So first, what we want to do is let's open the terminal and let's cd into our project, and we're gonna say npm install mongoose because we're gonna be needing it. Cool. And another thing we're gonna be needing, let's quickly come back to our browser and let's go over to, let's bring this over here. Let's go over to Google, and within Google, we're gonna look up npm Jose. So you're gonna come here, it's the first one, and we're gonna be installing this. It's gonna be npm install Jose, and we're gonna copy that, and we're gonna close out of that because we don't need it anymore. Let's head right back over to VS Code, and the reason we're using this is because let's go over to, let's actually open the browser again. Let's go over to Next.js, the docs, and let's put in Edge and Node.js runtime. So basically, it's going to tell us that in the context of Node.js, runtime refers to the libraries, APIs, and general functionality available to your code during execution. So the Node.js runtime has all the access to the Node.js APIs are compatible for the ecosystem, whereas the Edge runtime is based on web APIs. So with that being said, here it goes on to tell you what the differences are, but basically what it's saying is Next.js uses Edge runtime, so the lightweight Edge runtime is a subset of available Node.js APIs. All this jargon basically is saying that we can't necessarily use, if we come up here, we can't necessarily use all Node APIs within Edge runtime because it's based on the web APIs. So those who use JWT, so npm install JWT, cannot use it within Next.js. So if we go to JWT, let's see, maybe it's gonna explain. It's gonna show us here that you can't use it. Okay, so I don't think it shows us here that we can't use JWT, but basically we're no longer able to use, let's go back to, so we're no longer able to use JWT, npm install JSON web tokens, because that is classified as a Node.js API and package. With the Edge runtime, we have to use npm install Jose or Josie or something. I call it Jose based on where I'm from, where I'm at. So if it might be, you guys might pronounce it some other way, but it's npm install JOSE. So that's why we have to use, let's close out of that. That's why we have to use npm install JOSE instead of npm install JSON web token. So now that we have that, those are the two main ones we really need. I believe bcrypt should already be automatically installed. Let's see, npm install bcrypt. So just to be safe, this package is no longer supported, blah blah. I mean, you can go ahead and install it, but I think it comes automatically with it now. But you can go ahead and install npm install bcrypt just like I did here, and that's it. So we can just close out of this. So now, in order to make this connection with our database, what we want to say is import mongoose from mongoose. Import mongoose from mongoose, and then we want to come down here and we want to say const mongo URI, and I'll tell you in a second where this is coming from. So we're going to say is equal to process.env.mongo URI. So this Mongo URI within our .env, which I'm not going to click, is what we saved that connection string as from our database connection. So when we're creating a cluster, it gave us this string within connect, I can't go back to it because my credentials would show again, and I don't want to go back and reset it. But when you go to connect, you get that string, and then you take that string with your data, with your password within it, and you go to .env and you save it. And I saved mine as Mongo URI, and it's case sensitive, so I did save it in all caps as Mongo URI. And in order to extract it, we're gonna go process.env.mongo URI. I'm not gonna go too much into that because in every other project that has MongoDB as our database, we've done it. So you can go back to any other project that's labeled MERN. MERN React project within my catalog, and you can see exactly how I go about doing that. But this is the gist of it. Now, if we go to if Mongo URI, yeah, if there's no Mongo URI, let's put it that way. So if we're missing it, then we want to state throw new error. Well, error, and this is going to say please define Mongo URI environment. There we go. And then here, now we can create the function, async function, and we're going to call it database connect. We're going to say database connect, and within this, we're going to say if mongoose.connection.ready_state does not equal to 1, so does not equal to 1, then let's use a try catch. So we're going to say try await mongoose.connect, and here it's going to say Mongo URI, and we can console log to see if it works. Database, okay, database is connected. Cool. And then within the catch, we can just say console.error database is let's say database is not connected. Cool. And let's figure out our else. So here now we can have else console.log where is it? There we go. Database is already connected. Cool. Yeah, so just have it this way. There's no point of going too in depth with it because by now we should already know how MongoDB is connected to our project. But basically, if the ready state is not 1, we're saying we're connecting to the Mongo URI and saying database is connected. Else, we're going to throw an error and say database is not connected. But if it's not, if the ready state is 1, we're going to say database is already connected. And you can Google what the different ready states for MongoDB is. And yeah, so now within our source folder, what we want to do now is create our user model. So we want to come in here and we want to create a new folder, and this is going to be called models. And this models is only going to, well, should be just called models since we're only going to use one, but who knows, we can expand on this project later. So we're going to call it models, and we're going to say user.js. Within this models, we're going to say import mongoose from mongoose, and all we're doing here is creating a schema. So we're going to say const user schema is equal to new mongoose.schema, and I'm going to open up this object. It should be const. There we go. And here it's going to say username, so we're going to be grabbing the username. The type here is going to be string. Cool. Make sure it's not in quotations, so just leave it as string and make sure this is uppercase. And then required is going to be true. Cool. And then now we can say email, and for email we're going to have type of string as well. This is a lot. So type of string as well. required here is going to be true as well, and unique is going to be true. And the reason we're setting unique to true is because we don't want multiple email addresses that are the same within our database, because it's gonna mess with the way we search for data within our database, or the way we authenticate actually, and the way we authenticate, let's put it that way. So because we're not keeping the username as unique. So if we were keeping the username as unique, no, email should always be unique. You don't want multiple of the same emails within the database. And that's a no. So type string required here should be true. All right. And once we're done with that, now let's bring this up here. Now within this, we want to get the timestamps. So we want to state, we want MongoDB to keep track of when a user was created. So here we're going to say timestamps, plural, is true. And here we're going to say const user in capital, and we're going to say mongoose dot models dot user. So in caps, and make sure models has a S, or mongoose dot model user. So we're going to name the model user user schema. And the reason we do this is because we don't want we don't want Next.js to keep throwing us an error. So this is the easiest way to go about it, by using this or, because sometimes it will throw an error if it tries to reconnect when you refresh, because Next.js does hot refreshes. So if it tries to reconnect multiple times, it might throw an error. So you want to keep this or there. And then we're going to export default user, and that, just like that, we have connected with our database. So let's go ahead and close all this. Yeah. Okay. So since we're still dealing with the backend, there's no need to pull up the browser for the UI UX aspect of it, for the front end aspect of it. So we're just going to continue with our backend up until when we need to pull up the front end. Then we can do a split screen for the front end code and the browser. So let's go ahead and create our login route. So we're going to head over to API. So let's close out of this. Let's close out of that. And now we're just going to go to app, and within app, our API here, we're going to create a new folder, and this folder is just going to be called login, and this is going to serve as the route our backend uses to log in. So we're going to say route.js. Now within route.js, we're going to be importing bcrypt, okay, from bcrypt. There we go. So we're going to import bcrypt. We're going to be importing user from @/models/user, and then we're going to be importing connect DB from, is that what we called it? Is it database connect or connect DB? DB connect. It's called DB connect. So let's go ahead and close that. So we're going to call it DB connect from @/utils/MongoDB. So that's the function that we're going to be using to connect to our database. Now lastly, we're going to import, this is going to be called sign JWT from Jose, and we're going to save that. Okay, now lastly, we're going to we're going to import our secret from process.env.secret. Now, we haven't created this secret yet. Actually, this is going to be uppercase secret. So we haven't created this secret yet, but the secret is what we use to sign our JWT token. So we're going to get to that later on, and I'll show you how I went ahead to and create that secret. So now we can start writing our function. So we're going to say export async function, and this is going to be a post request. So post, and it's going to be taken in a request. Cool. So we can say await database connect. So this way our database connects with this function. Well, yeah, so with this function, but at the very first thing the function does is link to our database. It's called that database. Now, what we're going to say is const, and we're going to be taking in the email, and we're going to be taking the password from the front end, and it's going to be await request.json. Cool. And this is coming from the front end. Now, let's bring this down a lot, and we're going to say try catch. And within our try, we're going to say if there's no email or there's no password, meaning nothing was passed in, then we want to return a next response.json. And it's just going to say message. Message. Please provide credentials. And this is if nothing was passed on. So imagine going to a login page, putting nothing in for the email and nothing in for the password, and just clicking in sign in. So there's both fields are empty. You just hit sign in and expect something to happen. What's going to happen is this is going to return a response of please provide credentials. So we don't want to say password not valid or password is invalid or whatever. We just want to say please provide credentials. Now we can, but if we have email or password, we can say const user is equal to, well, if we have email, actually, we can say const user await user.find. So what it's doing here is saying, all right, you provided me the email. Let's see, you provided me the, let me repeat this. So for this, it's no email, no password. For else, so if this else, if you do provide an email and password, what we want to do first is make sure that we can find this email within our database. So we're going to say await user, and this is invoking that user model dot find email. And now if we don't find the email first. So if we don't find the email, so if we don't have that user, we want to return next response again .json stating invalid credentials. Now we want to be as vague as possible when returning things like this, when responding with things like this, because you don't want to say invalid email address or invalid password, because you're making yourself open to a brute force attack. Meaning, if you let the hacker know, like, hey, this email you tried is the wrong email, or this password you tried is the wrong password, then and that's what you're returning to the person. So you're telling the hacker, like, oh, you got the email right, but you got that password wrong. They can just keep trying multiple passwords, so until they find something that lets them in. So by just being vague and saying invalid credentials, the user now has to know, like, all right, maybe the email is wrong, or maybe just the password is wrong. So on our end, we just know we can't find anyone in a database with using this email address. But if we do, now we want to go over to the password. So if we can find someone with this email address, we want to go over to the password. So we're going to say is password valid. And we want to use bcrypt. So we want to invoke bcrypt, and we're going to say bcrypt.compare. And what we're doing is, when we create our register, so we technically should have created register first, but that's besides the point. So when we create register, what we want to do is anytime we save a new password, we want to encrypt it using bcrypt. So when we encrypt it within our database, it's going to be this long encrypted string saved as our password. And the only way to know what that password is by comparing it with the password you saved it as. So bcrypt has the power to encrypt, and it can also compare to see if the regular password is the same as the encrypted password. So now we're going to say bcrypt.compare, and within this comparison, we're comparing the password that was given, the password that was typed into the input field. So this shouldn't be an object. So we're comparing with this password that was provided from the front end with the password that's within, so user.password, so within the database, within the user database. So that's what we're doing here. So cool. Now let's do this. This should be a lot easier to see, and we can close this for right now. So it should be a lot easier to see. So now we're going to do what we've been doing. We're going to start with if the password is invalid. So if it's invalid, then we want to state return next response once again .json, and we're going to say message invalid credentials. Remember, you don't want the user to know, or the hacker to know, that it's the password that's incorrect. So what do we want to do now? So if the password is correct, so if you do have a valid password, then we want to use JWT now we want to bring in JWT. So we're going to say const JWT secret is equal to new text encoder. Where is encoder? There we go. Okay, new text encoder. There we go. New text encoder, and it's going to be new text encoder dot encode, and we're going to pass in that secret. So this is how we're going to create our this is how we're going to create a JWT secret that is applicable, or that is accepted by the package Jose. So typically we can just create a secret and pass it on using JSON Web Token if we had that package, but because we're using another package called Jose, we're going to be passing in the JWT secret using this text encoder because it wants that secret encoded in a certain method. So now once we have our JWT secret, we're going to say const token because we want to pass a token in. So what we're doing is when you log in, you want to pass pass a token to the browser using cookies. So you want to, within our cookie, we want to put a token in there. So think of the cookie as a regular cookie, and if you like chocolate M&Ms or chocolate chip cookies, each chocolate chip, or let's just say one big chocolate chip, is in the cookie, and that chocolate chip is going to be the token, and the token is going to be read by the browser. So whatever's in that token is what we're grabbing in the browser. So that's it. So the cookie is set in the backend, and it's going to be carrying our token. So the payload is going to be the token, and within the token there's also another payload. So now we're creating this token, and the token is going to say await new sign JWT, and here the payload within sign JWT is going to be user ID, and it's going to be user dot underscore ID, because within our database it's going to be saved, the user ID is saved as dot underscore ID. So we're just going to be calling it user ID, and it's going to be referring to this user ID. So we're going to be doing that, and then we're going to say dot set protected header, and this is just comes with the Jose to sign. It's the algorithm that JWT uses, and we're just going to copy this verbatim because it's within the docs. So HS256, I did not make this part up, so just copy it as is, and then we're going to say dot, so let's wrap this, set where is it, yep, set expiration time, and the expiration time is going to be set to 1 hour. So we're just going to say 1H from the time it was created, and we're going to be signing it using JWT secret. Now I have a whole video that talks about why we use JWT, how it actually works, a video presentation on it. If you want to see that, I can link it down below, but I don't want to take much more time just explaining it since I have a video dedicated to that. So just know the cookie and the token are created in the backend. With the token, we're kind of sealing it. We're signing it with the JSON web token so that our browser knows, like, hey, yeah, this hasn't been tampered with. So we're sending this token. Within this token is the payload called user ID, which we're going to be using later. That's what we're going to be using. That's the payload within the token. Now the token is going to be the token is going to be placed within the cookie, and the cookie is also going to be set in the backend. So yeah, so let's go ahead and continue. So now let's come down here, and we're going to create a next response object. So we're going to say const response is equal to next response dot JSON, and it's going to be message login successful. So after all that, now we have a successful login. Successful. Cool. And now we want to set the cookie using the cookie method from the response object. So now we're going to say response.cookies.set. So we want to name this cookie auth token. Be mindful what you name it, because you're going to have to remember that. Just remember what you named it. So value is token. So the value is the payload. So the value is the token. So we're sending this token. And the path is this. If you're following this project from start to finish, meaning you saw the other playlist, then just keep it as this. So remember, guys, I have a whole video on why we're using JSON web tokens, why we're setting cookies and things like that. So I have a whole video for that, and that would also explain why we're setting the cookie like this. But for the most part, just copy along what I have. The name, you can name it whatever you want, actually. Value is token because that's the payload. Path is just backslash. If you're following, like I said, if you're following this project from start to finish, just keep it as a backslash. HTTP only is going to be true, and max age, let's put it that way, is 3600. And this is I believe in this one it has to be in seconds. With Next.js it's set in seconds. I believe in React it was, well, in Node.js I believe it's milliseconds. So we're just going to keep it at 3600. Secure, for this we're just going to say false, because we're in development, we're not in production, so we're going to say false. But when we get to production, we're going to change this to true. And then lastly, what we want to do is return response. Cool. Let's see, we had try here, there we go, that's catch. So let's make sure we didn't delete anything. Okay, cool. Response, let's come down here. Cool. And within catch, we're going to say console.log error return next response.json, and this message is going to be server error, and it's going to have a status of 500. Awesome. Cool. So this is the login. So we're all done with this. Now the only thing left is to create this secret. And in order to do so, I'm actually going to show you this. So let's go over to YouTube. And shameless plug, I'm just going to place in my own account here. And there's a video here where I talk about creating a MongoDB secret. So just plug in my own video in real quick. So finally found it. So it's within the full stack MERN JWT auth project, React and Node.js, part 2, login and crypto. Yeah, so within it, I tell you at the 23:45 mark, 23 minutes and 45 mark, I tell you exactly where to, I show you exactly how to create the a secret using bcrypt. So let's quickly go through it. Oh no, it was crypto, using crypto, not bcrypt. So we used crypto to create it, and I believe crypto comes with JavaScript, or it comes with Node and Next.js, so you don't really have to download it. You don't have to install it. So we're just going to copy exactly what is here. Awesome. So what I had was, let's go back here. What I had, let's open our terminal, and within our terminal, we're going to open this up, and we're going to say, let's get out of this, and we're going to say node, and it's going to say welcome to node.js. And what we want to do is say require, and we're going to be using crypto, and it should say dot so crypto.random bytes is what we have here. So it says dot random bytes. And yes, we could do this together. It's a shameless plug. I just want to plug in my content. So dot random bytes 35 dot toString and then hex dot toString, and we're gonna say hex. So now we can go ahead and close out of this. If you guys are gonna watch that video, just bear in mind it's one of my earliest videos, so like very early on. So hopefully I've come a long way since then in terms of writing code and explaining things. But yeah, give it a look if you do have the time, or if you're just bored and want to see someone else write code. So yeah, when you do this, you just go ahead and click enter, and it gives you this long string, and this long string is what we're going to use as our secret. Now I'm going to redo mine because I don't want you guys knowing what I use as my secret. That's the whole point of it being a secret. But this is how you get a secret using crypto. So yeah, so for register, we're going to be doing basically the same thing. We're going to say import bcrypt from bcrypt. Cool. And next we're going to say import user from user. So @/model/user. Then we're going to say import db connect from @ and this should be utils @/utils/MongoDB. Cool. And now we want to say export async function post request, and it's going to say await connect db. Well, it's db connect, and we're going to say const. We're going to be grabbing email, password, and username from our front end. So it's going to be request.json. Await request.json. Cool. And now we can go further and state try catch. Okay, there we go. Try catch. And within a try block, let's actually just do the error catch error first. We're gonna say console.error registration error, and this is going to be error, and this is going to say return next response.json error internal server error. Let's give it a status of 500. Cool. So just like that, we have the error done. So within try, we're gonna state if there is no email, or password. So it's pretty much the same concept as the login. So if we don't have any of this and the user tries to sign in or register, then we're going to return a next response .json with a message. Please provide credentials. So
music licensing reimagined.
Please provide credentials. Cool. Yeah. So now we're just going to do a basic email validation using regex. Regex. I can't speak, but let me go right into mine. So we're going to go into my actual application. We're just going to copy that part because I don't want to write it out. Let's see. Let's go over to, where's our login? Where's our API? Let's see. Register API. There we go. And we're just going to copy the basic email validation. So I'm going to take it with along with the commented out part. So basic email validation. So this is just going to be our basic email validation. Let's see. This should not be within the if. So we're going to close out of that. This should be right under here. Cool. And this is just for our email format. So you can choose to put that in. If you don't want to, you don't have to. It's not that huge of a deal, seeing it's how it's just a portfolio project technically. So we can say const if we have an existing user, and we can say await user.find1, and once again we're going to find using email. So we're going to find by our email. If we do have that existing, well, if we don't, well, in this case, if we do have the existing user. So if we have that existing user, meaning it's kind of the reverse for register. In register, you're trying to see if you have the email. If you do have the email, then you don't need to re-register, right? You're already in. We just have to check. We just have to see. Let me re-explain that. So with register, it's a little different. In register, if you have the email, if we can find that email in the database, then you're no longer a register. You're no longer a new user. You're an existing user. So we just have to move you over to login and say, hey, just go log in. You're already a user. But if we cannot find your email address, then we want to register you as a new user. Whereas in login, if we find you within the email, if we find your email within the database for login, then we want to log you in by checking your password. If we don't find your email, then we need to push you back to register. So that's how they kind of work together. So here, if you're an existing user, then you want to return next response.json, and here you're gonna say message. User already exists, please log in. And you want to give it a status of 400. Cool. So we're just gonna wrap it. There we go. Okay, so now if you are not an existing user, we want to say const hash password, which is hilarious because we compared password in the last one, so this should have been the first step, but you know, it still works regardless. So const hash password, we're going to say await bcrypt.hash. And remember, in the last one in login we compared, so here we're going to hash when you register, and we're going to take in password, and we're salting it by 10. So yeah, and now we're going to say const new user is equal to new user. There we go. And we're going to be passing in email. Password is going to now be hash password. And we're going to be passing in the username. So we're going to be saving all this to our database. And now we're going to say await new user dot save. Cool. And now we want to return next response.json message profile created, and this is gonna have a status of 200. Awesome. So that's practically it. So just like that, we're done with our register route. So let's go ahead and close out of that. So now we want to complete our backend API, and we want to create the logout. So we're gonna say new folder here, and it's gonna be logout. And for logout, we're gonna create a new file, and it's just gonna be route.js. So the logout is fairly simple. What we're gonna be saying is, all right, we set a cookie in the when we logged in. When we log out, we want to delete that cookie, so that way that user is no longer authenticated. So that's pretty much it. So what we want to say is export function get, or you could say async function get cool. And here we're going to say const response is equal to next response.json, and the message here is going to be logged out successful. Is it logged out? Let's say log out successful. Log out successful. Cool. So we're going to keep it as that. And now we're going to use that. So here we're going to be deleting the authentication cookie. So we're going to say response.cookies dot delete. Let's see. And remember I said remember the name of the cookie. So the cookie is called auth token. So that's what we're deleting. And now we want to configure it. So we're going to say path is going to be this. HTTP only is going to be true. We're going to say secure for right now is going to be false. Cool. And that's it. So we're just going to say return response. Cool. Yeah, and this is it. This is all we're doing. So we're deleting that token, and once we delete that token, it's pretty much an authentication token. Once we delete it, the backend knows, all right, this person's no longer allowed here, and they just log you out of the system. So just like that, with 13 lines of code, we're all done. So let's go ahead and close this. Now what we want to do is create something called the middleware. So now that we have our register, login, and logout, not necessarily in that order, but now that we have all three, what we want to do now is create a middleware. So let's head over to Next.js docs. So if we come over here, it'll tell you what a middleware is doing. So it says middleware allows you to run code before a request is complete. So basically, it helps you by modifying the response of an incoming request. So it stands pretty much in the middle of a request and a response. So let's say I want to access a route within my application, and the route is called only authenticated, only authorized users allowed. Let's say that is a thing. So there's a route called only authorized users allowed, right? First, I make that request to the server, like, hey, server buddy, I'm trying to get into this route. And my server is going to be like, all right, well, before I grant you access, there's this middleware component that needs to see if you're allowed to get in there. So that's what the middleware does. Right before the response from the server, right before the server says, sure, let me get you in there, the middleware stands as that middle person, that middleman that's like, hey, I have to go through your credentials to see if you, the middleware is kind of like the bouncer between the club entry and between the line in the club and entering the club. So your request is kind of like, hey, can I get into the club? And the middleware, this is a great example. So the middleware is like, all right, let me check the list to see if you're authorized to get in here. If you are who you claim you are, and if you're on this list to get in here. But if you're not authenticated, if you're not authorized, if you're not on the list, if nothing about you is special enough to be within that authorized group, you can't get into that only authorized personnel route that we talked about. You can't get into that club. So that's what the middleware is doing. So it's running right before the response, because all that's keeping you outside the club is technically, if you take out the bouncer, aka the middleware, if you take that middleware out, the only thing keeping you out is the door. So, and all you have to do is just have the door open. That's the response, right? So you're requesting to get in. The response is, all right, the door is open, just get in. But the middleware stands as that bouncer that's like, hey, nah, you can't get in this club. I have to check your authorization. I got to check to see if you're authorized to get in here. Yes, you're authenticated, meaning you can be within this project, where you can be within this vicinity. You're authenticated enough to stay in this line, in this queue. But now I have to see if you're authorized to get in. So authentication is basically, you're allowed to be within the project. So I allow you, you log in, you're authenticated, meaning you're someone who we know within the system, you're in the system. Now, the middleware helps with authorization. Are you authorized to get into the route you're looking for? Are you authorized to get into this club? Is this a VIP only club? Are you part of the VIP? I have to see. So the middleware is that quick, it acts as a quick middleman. Like, all right, between a request and a response. Like, oh, wait, hold up. Now, if the middleware says, yes, this person is a good candidate, they're on the list, let's let them in, then it runs a next function. Like, all right, next. You go in, and whatever's next, continue. So we're going to get to that, but that's pretty much all it's doing. So as you can see here, hopefully that wasn't too long-winded and you kind of caught my drift. So here it says use cases. The use cases are, like I said, authentication and authorization, ensuring user identity, and check session cookies before granting access to specific pages or API routes. There's server-side redirects. So we're going to be using at least this too. So we're going to be using authentication, authorization, and server-side redirects. So let's go over here and close out of this. And now we can head back into our Visual Studio Code. So now we're going to come in here, and within that doc, the Next.js doc we just closed out of, it's going to show you how to also set it up. Rather than reading all that, I'm just going to help you out here. So within our source folder, what we're going to do is just create a new file, and the new file is going to be called middleware.js. Actually, let's make it a folder. Yeah, just to put everything. Actually, we're just gonna keep it as a file. There's no need for it to be in a folder. Kind of just, it's counterintuitive. So middleware.js. So we're just gonna call it middleware.js within our source folder. And if you don't use a source folder, if you go to the docs, it's gonna tell you how to set up your middleware within the root folder or whatever. So now within middleware, let's do this. We're going to create our middleware. That pretty much. So here we're gonna say import, and here we're gonna be verify JWT. Or is it JWT? No, it's called JWT verify. JWT verify. There we go. So that's all we're going to be needing for right now. We're going to say const secret is equal to, remember our secret, it's going to be process, what is it? No, actually it's going to be new text encoder. So the same way we set up our secret back there. And then we're going to say .encode. But this time, rather than put our secret in here, we're just going to say, rather than create a secret variable and putting secret in there, we're just going to directly take it from the process.env, from our env folder. So we're going to say process.env.jwt secret. And you guys should remember what the secret is. So actually, we didn't call it JWT secret. We just called it secret within our .env, I believe. Let's go over to our API, and I believe it was login, and I believe we just called it secret. Yep, process.env.secret. So you guys should remember what the secret is within your .env when we created it. So that's what it is. I mean, you guys should remember how we created the secret, not necessarily what it is. It's a long string. So that's what it is. So if we go over here, as you can see, it says string at the very top. I don't know why I just try to point to it on my laptop, but you guys can see it right there. So yeah, so now we can create our function that says const async, not const, export async function. There we go. And it's going to be called middleware. How original. And this is going to be request. Cool. Now we're going to say const path is equal to request.nextURL.path_name. And here we're just getting the path name. And we're going to say const is path, well, is public path. And I'm going to go ahead and explain all this in a second. Equal to path equal to backslash or path equal to space slash register. Cool. And we're just gonna close it out there. So what this is saying is we're gonna get this path. We're gonna get our path by requesting the next URL.path name, and in order to see that it's a public path, so we're gonna create this variable. Is it a public path? We're gonna say path is equal to backslash or path is equal to slash register. And why are we saying this? Because if backslash here refers to our login route, right? So if you followed the project, this whole project from the start, right now our public path, our backslash is slash hero. It's our hero page, but we're gonna change that up when we work on our front end again. So for right now, just understand that path backslash for the path is the login path. So when you go to the to our project, the backslash here refers to the login path. So if is public path equals to backslash mean and path equal to slash register, it means these two paths, the login path and the register path, are both public, meaning they don't need some kind of authorization for you to be on that route. You don't need to be authorized to be on a login path, meaning that's where you log in. That's the form that you log in. You don't need to be authorized to see the form to log in. You also don't need to be authorized to see the form where you need to register. So that's what this is saying. So what I just explained, we're going to write that logic. Right now, we're just grabbing what we need to know are the public paths. So when we have that, now we want to grab our token. So remember, our token holds a payload within it. So we're going to say request dot cookies dot get. So we're getting actually our cookies hold a payload that we're going to be calling token here. So our cookies, we're going to be getting that auth token, because that is what we saved our token as within the cookies. So remember, the token goes within the cookie, and in order to retrieve that token from the cookie, we need to request it from the cookies and retrieve it. So /authToken, and I'm going to explain it one more time just in case I'm confusing anyone. So when we logged in, we created a token with JWT, so a JWT token, created that, and within that token was a user ID. In order to transport that token, we put it within a cookie and we sent it to the browser, right? So now we want to retrieve that token that we saved within the cookies. The token name was called AuthToken. So we're going to say request.cookies.get AuthToken. And because it's an object, we're going to say .value. So if we don't have that value, we're going to say or this. Cool. And now we can say if there is no token. Actually, let me see something really quickly. So let's go to mine and let's go to our middleware here. I want to make sure. Actually, let's just keep it at .value. Awesome. So let's close out of this. So let's not do this. Let's just keep it at .value. That's good enough, because we're going to say if there's no token. If we didn't, I guess. But here we're going to say if there's no token, and if our path is not public, if our path is public path. So if our path is not public and we don't have a token, then we want to return next response dot redirect. So we want to redirect them to new URL, and this is okay. So this is going to be new URL. Is it one word? I don't think so. Let's see. It's a good question. Pardon me for a second. Yep, new URL. There we go. So it's all uppercase. URL. There we go. So new URL, and it's gonna redirect you to the login. So that means, in fact, I'll explain it in a second. So this would be request.url. Cool. So what this is saying is, to use our bouncer analogy, now this middleware is standing there in front of the club, right? You have no authentication, meaning you're not even authenticated to be within the vicinity of the club, meaning you're not authenticated to be inside of our project, because you don't have a token. If you log in, then you're given a token, but right now you're not even logged in to the application, so you have no token, and the path is not public. So you have no token, and you're not on the /login or /register page. You're not on any of that. So what are they going to do? The middleware, the bouncer, is going to kick you out of there and send you right back to the login. Like, hey, go get. I don't know if you guys are like party people, but you know how you get that little band that goes around your wrist, like the little wristband. That's what it's called. I don't know why I can't speak. You get that little wristband that goes around your wrist that says, hey, I purchased something. I purchased a ticket to be in here. That kind of thing. So that's the analogy. So you don't even have that ticket, that thing to be in line. So you're not even supposed to be in that line because you don't have that wristband. You don't have the wristband saying, hey, I'm allowed to be in this vicinity. So that's what the token is. The token is the wristband. So you don't have the token that's saying, hey, I'm supposed to be within this application. I logged in. So you're trying to go to a private path, but you're not even logged in, is what we're saying. So you don't have the token, and you're not within a public path. You're not within the login page or the register page. So what we're going to do, we're going to send you right back to the login. We're going to send you right back to that kiosk where you get the authentication, where you get your wristband. I sincerely hope this analogy is going well. So that's what this is doing. So it's sending you, it's redirecting you to this new URL, this backslash and request.url. I believe there's a Next.js docs on this redirect also. So that's what the middleware is doing. The middleware is saying, hey, before we get to this, to the promised land, to where you're supposed to go, I'm gonna knock you back down to the login page. So that way there's no you're not privy to any information going on in that route you're trying to access. Cool. So now we're going to say else if. Else if we're going to say you do have a token. So you have that wristband. You're within the you're in the line. What we want to say is try catch. And now we want to say const payload. All right, is equal to await JWT verify. Now what we're doing here is verifying with JWT that our token has not been tampered with. Like, we're verifying that yes, this person is in fact who they say they are. That's what we're doing. So our token, we're using our secret to verify that token. Like, all right, the token's not been cracked. This person's allowed in. That's what this payload is saying. So if we're able to now verify you, we're going to say const token expiration. Okay, so you are verified, but let's make sure that this token that you have wasn't from last week or wasn't from the day before. Like this wristband you have wasn't given in the last concert. You didn't just get a random wristband and say, hey, this is from today. No, that was from last week. So that's what we're trying to check now. So we're saying const token expiration, new date. We're going to check the payload dot expiration times 1000. And then we're going to say if token expiration is less than or equal to the new date, there you go. We're gonna say return next response redirect new URL, and this is gonna say request.url. So basically what this is saying is, hey, yeah, look here, buddy, you're trying to get one over on us. Your token has been expired. It's not within the specified time that we gave you. It's not within the hour mark that you got it. Remember, when we log in, that token is only acceptable or is only valid for 1 hour. So if you've been logged in for an hour and 1 minute or 2 hours, then no, get out of here, buddy. You got to go back to the login page and get yourself re-verified and get yourself re-authenticated, unless you can't go to the route you want to go to. Now, if you are still within the time frame, you're not expired, right? We want to make sure that if the path, if is public path, then we want to say return next response dot next. So now we're saying, hey, you seem like you're still on that public path. Like you're on that, you're on the public path, but everything is going okay. Then we want to move you to you've passed this round of security. You've passed the security round. Now we can move you on over to the next step. So that's only if you're in a public path. So if you're in a public path, we want to move you over to the next step. And then let's catch this error here. We're going to say return next response dot redirect, and you guessed it, it's just going to be new URL, and it's going to be parentheses, and this is going to be request.url. Cool. And now we can now state return next response dot next, meaning you've passed all our security features, you're good to go. That's all it's stating. So now there's something called export const config within the docs, and hopefully I explained this well to you guys. Let me know in the comment section if you have any further questions. So here within Next.js, there's this feature that says export const config, and it's gonna have something called matcher within it. And here it's gonna be, actually it's gonna be an array, not an object. There we go. So it's gonna be an array, and these are all the routes that this middleware is servicing. So we have this, we're gonna have our register route, we're gonna have our hero, and we're gonna have our location. So remember, this login and this register are gonna be public path, so they're gonna be okay. If not, then these are the private routes, and we have the logic for that in here too. And that's pretty much it. That right there is all we need to create our middleware. Yeah, so this is gonna be it for the server side, and then on the next video I'm gonna show you how to create the front end side. So we're just gonna create our login form. We're gonna move things from the current single route, meaning single slash, meaning if we had like localhost 5000 with no route behind it, that should just take us to the login page. Currently, with what we have, it's just with nothing after the backslash, it takes us to the hero page. So we're gonna reconfigure that in our front end, and then we're gonna add some front end designs to it. So yeah, if you have any questions, don't forget to ask in the comment section, and I'll get to it as swiftly as I can. But don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That really helps and goes a long way. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.